uh, uh. Barber College Success. Another wonderful episode. Thank you for coming. Brought to you by Craig Charles of Crown Cuts Academy JC, Crown Cuts Academy Bristol, and Craig's Crown Cuts downtown Johnson City. Spreading love the JC way is the only way we know, but spreading love the Crown Cuts way is the top way. Today we're gonna have a wonderful episode, banging episode, and my co-host himself.
Am I Fields? Am I your barber on Instagram?
Oh yes, sir. Am I the man?
Is that I sat across from you on this side, but I'm just used to it. Like I always sit over there.
It almost seems like whenever I come in, I feel like I have to. We have like assigned seats.
I know I like it, but I'm used to it now.
I'm almost used to it because I don't think I've ever sat anywhere else.
I think you sat there when we first started. You sat there,
and I think I probably sat over there one time. I don't know. I don't remember, man. It just seems like I come in now, I just gravitate towards one side.
Yeah, unless somebody's already in my chair down. Like, do you tell them? Do they just naturally sit there?
No, people just naturally come in and fall in line.
Maybe they watched it before.
Probably, and they see like it's assigned seats, which is good. Today we're gonna talk about apprenticeship. We're gonna talk about going to school for the 1,500 hours. We're gonna talk about the pros, the cons, what works for you, what benefits the student, what makes the overall experience the best thing to get to maximize your effort in this industry. Because there's plenty of misconception. Because most states are now going, a lot of states, not going, but a lot of states have the apprenticeship program, and a lot of students think that they have to get to the money right away, which is true. Everybody, they go to school to get paid.
To get capital, exactly.
Yeah, to get capital.
Well, people look at life so singularly. Like people think they have to have a job. Mm-hmm. It has to be a job. I need a job to make money so I can provide, and that is true. You need money to support yourself, but at the same time, this is a career. This is a life-changing thing.
So you want to maximize your skill. You want to have the best skill suitable for you, well-rounded when you get out of whatever discipline you're in, whether it's the apprentice or you're in school. So by the time you in the shop, you hit the ground running.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I heard something about Joe Biden. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. Is supposed to be trying to pass a law saying that certain licensed professions now could you don't have to have a license that you could obtain singularly through an apprenticeship.
Right. Which is okay, which is good. But I still think there is going to be a need for someone who wants to get a service from someone and see that person went through a protocol, went through a discipline to get it, opposed to just because some apprentices could be slack. You don't really get. It's hard for someone to teach you while they're working.
I mean, we both did the apprenticeship program, and for me, there's just so much that I didn't learn, that I learned the wrong way of doing stuff that I'm now knowing now from, certain barber skills in particular, or even doing my taxes, things that were taken for granted that were just, cut corners by. But to me, that was the right way because somebody was teaching me.
Right.
So in my mind, this is the right way. And that's one of the problems with apprenticeship.
You don't know what you don't know.
Mm-mm.
So what do you think is the mindset for someone who will choose the apprentice route opposed to just going to the normal 1,500 hours for barber, cosmetology, or 700 for aesthetics or nails or makeup? What do you think is the thought process?
For me, it was like, I can tell you from my own perspective, I don't want to speak through a third person, but for me, it was like I wanted to go to school at first because I felt like I would get that foundation, and I didn't want to be dependent on anybody because in apprenticeship, you are almost at the mercy of the person who is apprenticing you, which is one of the negatives to it. But my perspective, the way it came about to me, why I made my decision was, hey, you can go to a shop now. You can learn all the skills that you learned in school, and we can omit all the other stuff because you don't really need that. Mm-hmm. And then you can make money while you do it, right. Which is totally not the case. If anything, I spent probably more money than I would have, or wasted more money than I would have just going to school.
Because everybody wants to get from point A to possible and
Mhm.
think that once you get from point A as quick as possible, you're ready to start making money. You can jump into this industry, but there's so much little fine things, little tangible things that you can't grasp, you can't see, or you can't touch if you don't go to a regular 1,500-hour credit program.
And also you're missing out on that classical education that, you know, even though it's still you're learning stuff that you don't feel like you would use as a barber, like
Mhm.
perms or section and stuff like that. That the industry is really becoming so immersed in itself. I took a class from, I think his name was Joel, the hair surgeon,
Mhm.
and he said that he doesn't believe in just calling it men's or women's hair. It's just haircuts, because at this point,
You're a hairstylist.
exactly at this point, you know, you should be using your shears, your
You
clippers, all that.
you should be versed in everything,
Yeah.
from your clippers, your shears, to your straight razor, to enhancements, to whatever it takes to accomplish your goal, accomplish your job.
And it's a lot easier to fall back on those teachings when you've had the basics of them than it is for you to try to pick them up later. For me, it's harder for me to pick it up later because I have so many bad habits or ways that I've used to create. Which sometimes that's how things are created. You know, like
Mhm.
things that I would normally done by myself, or your technique, like the raking technique, is something that is beneficial now,
Right,
and that you wouldn't have picked up if you had went and got a classical education, maybe, or maybe you didn't.
right.
But for sure, it's, you know, you're missing out on stuff.
And one thing that most people, when I see them in the gym, out in public, a lot of students, a lot of people who are trying to change careers, a lot of men, they're like, I want to be a barber, but I don't want to do that perm stuff. I don't want to sit there and cut women's hair. I just want to cut men's hair.
Yeah.
And initially, at first, I used to be like, I wouldn't get into it because it'd be trying to convince them to do something that their mind is already made up to not
They've
do.
already built a stereotype
Yeah,
from.
you already got a stigma up. So having that stigma, it was kind of hard to debunk that stigma. So then, but I was like, you don't have to stop there. I have to let them know, hey, what is your objective for going into this industry? Well, I want to make money. So if you're trying to make money getting into this industry,
What matter kind of color, hair, who man, female, who you touching, as long as
yeah.
you're making money.
And the objective of a master barber is to turn down no services. So if you're a master barber, you have that title master barber, there shouldn't be no services that you can't do.
Anything.
Anything. Because some of the bad habits that I picked up, which I acquired later, was I wasn't being a master barber initially. Through my apprenticeship program, I gained some valuable skills now. But I just gained the skills that those barbers was teaching at that time just to be a barber.
And which sometimes it can be a good thing. Like, I'm not bashing
Oh
apprenticeship,
no, 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 no.
because a lot of those skills that you learn from somebody that will apprentice you, that they've probably done it hopefully for some years now, and they can really give you some game that and cut some kind of corner off what it took them to learn what they do.
Oh, and that happened. And
Yeah.
one of the skills that I acquired just being strictly as a barber, just be able to manipulate my clippers and cut hair like I'm using shears.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had several people ask me, did you use shears on that hair? I was like, no, I just use my clippers. But just not being able to use my shears initially and just being able to manipulate my clippers and do certain things and tricks with my clippers, angling, rake, and doing certain things that you should do with some shears to make your life a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm.
I just did it with my clippers.
There's a quote that I remember is like a martial art quote. It says, "Do not fear the man who threw 1,000 punches one time. Fear the man that threw one punch 1,000 times." So
Yeah.
you was a clipper man. You had to,
Yeah,
you know,
I made sure that I was able to do what I need to do with my clippers, but there's some parts in the head where you need to use your shears. You
did,
have to use your shears.
did you use your shears when you were apprentice, or did you just
No,
clippers the most?
no, clippers the whole time.
Yeah.
And the thing about an apprentice, it's hard for a barber who's cutting hair to sit and have time to train you.
Yeah, for sure.
It's hard. Because more often than not, he has his clients, he has to talk to his clients, he has to greet his clients, he has to do a consultation. Things like that, he's hoping that you pick up while you're watching.
And then if he's a business owner too, you know, he's answering his phone, he's greeting people at the doors.
So some things it has to be broken down to you where it's not. And more so an apprentice, I think you are expected to just see and do.
Yeah, you're thrown to the fire almost. Yeah.
And it works for some people, but I think you need a combination of both.
There was a lot of times I wanted to quit, and some people probably would have quit, and I tell myself that anyways. I might be the only one, but there was times where I was like, I'm not getting out of this. I don't have no clients. I've watched. I've seen the shop with a whole room full of people. I mean, packed to the gills. I mean, everybody cutting. There I am in my chair, just sitting there,
Sweet.
and the insecurity set in.
It gets discouraging at
It
times.
does. It did. The insecurity set in. The fact that I wasn't making money. That guilt felt in, especially if you have a family.
Right.
And there was times I was like, I can just quit. But thankfully, thank God I didn't. I'm still here. So.
And then the discipline of teaching you some of the book work, because you have to take the tests. You have to take the theory and the practical. So the shop owner who you're doing the apprentice under, they would have to reciprocate that training to you.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times it's hard to reciprocate that training. You can find some owners, and then learn is something you have to do on your own too as well.
Yeah.
So if you up under a apprentice program, while they teaching you, you are supposed to have that discipline to go out there and do some learning on it. For some students, that's difficult.
And even and sometimes you just forget like this.
Right.
You got a CEO of a company. He's got a doctor's degree. He makes, millions of dollars every year, and he went to college and he took world G. Doesn't mean he's going to remember world geography when he goes, even though he is successful. So some things get lost in the sauce.
So, and again, my mindset going in was like, I'm going to get this. And for me, more so in Boston, the school was way outside of the city.
How far?
So I'd probably have to catch like 2 buses, a train, and something else just to go out there and get to the school. I was like, and so my decision was made a little bit easier when I could just go down the street, hop on one bus, 10-minute ride, and go to the shop.
And I think that's one of the benefits of an apprenticeship over going to school. Maybe it's just the accessibility of it, I think.
Yeah.
And then making your own schedule.
Yes.
Almost to a degree. That's definitely a benefit of it. Whereas in school, you got to have so many hours, and the school's open so many days. That's one thing that I think did, because I was working with family, and the shop was in town. I would have to drive to Bristol and put mileage on a vehicle and stuff like that. That was another thing that influenced my decision as well.
And as I think of this right now, I'm thinking of it like being homeschooled and going to regular school. Some students thrive in homeschool.
You're right.
And some students struggle.
I would have struggled.
And even like through the pandemic, where a lot of kids, it was a setback for a lot of kids to do virtual learning.
But some kids, it was easy.
Some kids, it was easy.
They're like, all I got to do is click, 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 and I'm gone. Bet.
Right.
I'm on it.
You know what I mean? So I guess you have to kind of fine tune and find what works for you, but you have to do some research, because both can work. Both can work, but you have to put some work in yourself.
I think to have a good apprenticeship, you have to have somebody that knows where they lack in, what they lack in. They have to know their strengths and weaknesses, and maybe give you some kind of nurturing towards the other way. Maybe encourage you to go find out stuff on your own. And
they do have to have some structure too within the apprentice program. I think that would work too.
Yeah.
Where you say, you know what, you come in the morning, and from 9 to 10, we're going to go over some things.
Yeah.
We're going to take an hour going over some of the basic things, as far as taxes, as far as consultation, as far as certain things where you have the advantage of going to a classroom where the lesson for the day might just be marketing. The lesson for the day might be consultation. The lesson for the day where everybody is just doing role playing. Where the environment for learning is a little bit easier because everyone's doing it.
Yeah.
And there's no time limit, opposed to if you're in an apprenticeship program where you're like, okay, my client's coming at 10, so we got to wrap this up. And then wrapping it up means you might not be finished with the lesson, and then the shop start getting full. Because you never know when another walk is going to come in, and the owner might not have time to go back to that lesson.
Yeah. And I think that, like I said, I wouldn't change anything. I think we talked about it before. I would not change anything about what I did, because thank God I am where I am right now.
Right.
But I will say that I missed out on that classical education, man. That just, having that Miss Dale to teach me, how to run a section through or stuff like that. Right. Stuff that I'm hungry for now, that I need to learn. But I think that's good, because I think missing out on certain parts of that aspect of it makes me hungry to where I am today, to want to learn and continue to grow. So I think that no matter no matter whether you go to school or an apprenticeship, you still need to be willing to learn, to continue to learn no matter what.
That's important because through an apprenticeship of continuing education where you could find some instructional programs online, you can go to hair shows yourself.
360.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can take a continuing education course at a hair show in Orlando and the Bronner Brothers and IBS in New York, something to that aspect. But a lot of shop owners, you'd be surprised when barbers are working in the shop that they don't do continuing education, that they don't go to hair shows.
But I could see why, because I mean, you get caught up in that daily grind of like you got to support, and this kind of goes back to the beginning where I said like sometimes it's people. Some people feel like it's just a job,
Mhm.
and that's unfortunate because it could be so much more than that. But it's okay if you just want to sit behind a chair, grind it out, go home with your family. There's nothing wrong with that. I applaud that.
Right.
But I mean, just know that at any given time, if you want to pick up what you got and carry it on and try something new, you could at any time.
Yes. So, but the thing was too with me, right? I also went back to school to pick it up. So
I feel like I'm doing the same thing.
yeah. So I went back to school before I opened my school and to pick that up as well because I wanted to get the education part. I wanted to get that part down pat so I could be like, what is the perspective of a student? Where does the perspective from a student come from? How is it different? Because from day one, I knew when I go into the apprenticeship program, I knew from day one that I didn't get the theory. And that bothered me, knowing the intricate part of the origination of Barber. Where's it from? What is this tool called? What's the proper term? Just the intricacies of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that, and I went and got a textbook myself the year after I did the apprentice program. And I was like, trying to discipline myself to read that textbook was difficult.
Yeah, it was. And I tell people honestly, and
he said, yeah, it was.
I mean, when I had to do as an apprentice, I had to do all my classes online. So you go back to the homeschool discipline, especially growing up in public school like myself, where you were in class and somebody's like, here, read this, eat this, do this homework later. That for me to have to teach myself was a hard thing to discipline myself to do because,
right.
I'm just so used to somebody, hey, do this.
Present it for you, and then you take the material and you do something with it.
Yeah, and that's another thing you got to ask yourself. Are you the kind of person that is disciplined enough to get on and do your schoolwork, or do you need somebody to kind of make you wear the dunce hat in class and say, why didn't you turn this in type
right.
deal? Because not that that's what we do, but sometimes it takes that extra push, and that's why we have schools and things of that nature.
And from my experience, you need someone there to break down certain things for you repetitively. Because if it's not broken down for you repetitively, you're losing. You'll try to figure it out on your own. You will figure it out eventually, but it takes longer to figure it out.
And then sometimes you misinterpret.
And then you misinterpret.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's also good to have a different perspective. Someone just draw it up on the chalkboard and be like, let's try it this way. And also the advantage of going to school, you have 10, 15, 20 other people that you can learn from. And you're watching them grow.
Yeah, and I would say a silent competition in your mind, but I don't think you should compare yourself with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you're reaching. I mean, it seems like you're always reaching to get better, and you kind of mentally set yourself a goal. Like, I need my fades to look like that. Sometimes just seeing how something should be presented, especially in the hair world, seeing how a fade looks, a low fade, high fade, mid fade, it's not your work, can help you get a good idea and grasp it and continue to grow yourself.
Because you also have like 10 to 15, 20, even 30 different people who will find a way to make it more easier for them that you can pick their brain and ask them, how did you get your fade like that? Where the instructor might not be able to break it down to you. Because from teaching, I've learned so much from students. I've picked up techniques from students that they've taught me as well. And I've taught them plenty, but I've also picked up little techniques, how they approached a certain haircut, how they approached certain techniques to get it done better for them.
Yeah, and I learned a lot from the students too. Shout out to Kaylee; she'll show me how to, do the manicure. But to some guys, like outside looking in, that would be a joke. But
Right.
we spoke. Yeah, the man that could do nails. I mean, that's
a game changer.
that's money right there. So
That's a game changer.
I learn a lot from the students, and they teach me so much. And another thing, when you're new to the industry, you're not really knowing your target, your market. So most of the time, it's based off first impressions of people cutting your hair. So bringing in all different kinds of people means all different kinds of haircuts are coming in. People that want color, people that want blurry face, people that want long scissor cuts, and you can really grow and take out what you want and what you want to specify in or get better at, and then you could leave the rest.
And one thing I was just thinking about as we was talking, the key thing is we follow that. You have to show up.
Oh yeah.
Whether you're at apprenticeship or going to school, you have to show up. Because one of the key things for a lot of students is they don't have the experience is wavered. But you have to look at yourself and see, are you giving your all? Are you showing up every day? Are you ingesting everything possible you need to get to apply what is being taught?
Yeah, I think it should be specified, not showing up, but also showing up with the attitude of wanting to learn. Because there's a lot of students that just show up and what they do, they sit outside, smoke cigarettes, and put off haircuts and hide so they ain't got to do it.
Oh, that's the worst thing. Why would you come to somewhere to learn and you're avoiding haircuts?
Makes me sick. I don't know why.
How are you gonna get better?
Yeah, because some of these students think that it's just about cutting hair, hair and money in your hand.
No,
that's all it's about, and they're willing to sacrifice this time to make mistakes and grow just so they can get to the point to where they can just cut hair and make money. But you're not going to feel satisfaction in that.
Cutting hair is the easiest part.
Yeah. I honestly, I don't want to say that I'm tired of cutting hair, but I love that my day is broken up from cutting hair to doing a podcast to going to a school. Like, that's a blessing to me because I'm one of those people that easily gets bored doing the same thing. I hate to say it, but I do. I do the same thing. And I get bored. I like variety. I like to mix it up, and that's just. And thankfully, that I can do that, and it's worked out that way.
And that's the perspective I didn't even look at it. Am I just doing that? How it was broken up? It's probably has given me a lot of life too because I love what I do.
It gives me more energy because it just shows me all the different avenues of where, and I got Master Yoda right here telling me, like showing me the different things that could be involved with, and things in ways that I wouldn't even expect to know, like even dealing with mental health, helping people. Being mental health advocates, like would I ever thought that me cutting hair would lead to being a mental health advocate and something like that right now? I mean, not to say it shouldn't be blown up, but it is being blown up right now, and it should have been to begin with. But now it's becoming. I mean, you watch the NFL game and you got players speaking about it out loud, and here I am in the middle of it.
So. Had a big commercial. I didn't think of it on that aspect where we're doing so much with our trade, and it's not even about cutting hair. But you're a master barber, but we're doing the podcast. We're teaching. We're being mental health advocates. And then we still cutting hair also. But I didn't think of it on that aspect where, you know what, you should maybe start thinking of it more than just cutting hair. Because that's the easiest part.
And I was listening to that book, shout out Ryan Wade, the Naval Ravenant. He was saying how, like, you go to college, and he said almost 99% of the stuff you do is wasted. Like, and I'm not saying that it's not for nothing, but he said once you find out that 1%, that's what you need to dump all your focus in. That 1%. When you find out what you want, just let go, dump it. Because why else? Why would you not want to be involved in something that you love and give your 100% to?
I guess that's why I say I don't have bad days.
Because you love it. And in the book too, it says, you can't compete with me because you're competing. For you, it's work. What looks like work for you is easy for me. I do this every day. It's not work.
Yeah. Yes. That makes so much sense. Because I'm like, people ask me, how are you able to maintain all of this? I'm like, man,
I ask you that. I ask you that.
This is what I love to do.
Like every time I see you, I'm like, Craig, what are you?
This is what I love to do. So I'm not like second nature sitting there thinking like, when I have days off, I'm thinking like, man, I can't wait to get back to the shop. Man, I can't wait to get back to the school. Man, the podcast is on Monday. I'm excited. And Latham will send me a text. I was like, let me text man, what's a good time? I'm excited to just pour into something that has given me so much.
And there's some people in the industry right now that are in school or apprentice. And it's really hard to see it until you get your license. And because that's an unfortunate thing about it is when you get your license and actually can feel that breath, to feel like you can actually be your own person and be responsible. Like that is a reward, such a reward in itself. But they have to see past that. Just to get to that, it's an accomplishment. And for me, once I hit that first accomplishment, which I never got a college degree, you know, I didn't. I wouldn't say I excelled in anything in particular. So when I accomplished something and got my license, some people be like, "Oh, you just got." For me, that was a big deal. That's an
Of course,
accomplishment. And
of
then I got
course.
addicted to that success. Like I wanted to be more successful. I wanted to feel it again. I wanted to be uncomfortable. Like when I took my practical, I'm sitting there shaking. I was shaking, but I love the feeling of making myself better.
So one thing I think we need to talk about is like you talked about it a little bit, but that time space from you starting to finishing, maximize that time. You think that you're not learning, but you're actually learning. You want it all at once, and you can't get it all at once. Most students, they want that 10-year of barbering all at once in
And
3 months.
and
They
you
can't, they,
and you also got. I mean, and even with the apprenticeship, you got time. If
right.
you're an apprentice out here and you cut heads every single day, every hour,
Salute.
more power to you. But I sat around a whole lot and did a whole lot of nothing. And there's no reason for that, because when I went to take my state boards, I had to study. I had to rush it because I pushed it to the end. You
Right.
could, if you just study as you
Pace
go,
yourself.
exactly. You don't have to wait to the end and dump it all, because you'll already have it.
Can't shortcut that process. That 1 month of apprenticeship, or that 1 month of being the first month of school being a student, you shouldn't beat yourself up and think that you're not going to get it.
And since I got you here, how would you approach a student or even apprentice that you feel like is just wasting time? Do you just you let them do it now at this point because you've done it for so long and you know when people just aren't in it,
Uh,
or do you?
it's hard because I try to look past it because I love the industry so much. If someone is given an ounce of just the thought process, want to be a barber, I want them to get it so bad.
Even if even if they're just showing up,
Even if they're showing up, it's hard because my thought process is eventually it'll click. Eventually it'll click.
and
It,
sometimes it does, right?
and sometimes it does. But just my love for the industry, my love for barbering, my love for people finding their passion, my love for people finding something that they're happy with, because I know what barbering did for me. I know the joy, the excitement, the love I still have from barbering. And I'm like, if you just give it some time and put something in it, you can experience that same thing.
So for the people out there that are kind of like that are listening on the fence, like, what would you say to just kind of shake them, to get them wake up, man? Like, what would you say to them right now?
You're not gonna get out what you don't put in. You have to make it. You have to make it your own. You have to make it your passion. You're not gonna get out what you don't put in. And if you're not going to school every day, you're not passing your tests, you're not going to your apprenticeship every day, you're not trying to do some type of reciprocation of learning yourself, because learning is not just the teacher every time teaching you. You have to go outside the classroom and try to pick up some things yourself to make it work.
So it just frustrates me, man, because I just see like like I'm like you, like I want to see it happen, but when I see people just kind of taking it for granted, it makes me upset, man. I'm like, because yeah, I'm there too learning. So I'm like, I'm here as well. I'm right beside you trying to grow. And I'm making the same sacrifices. That it might not seem like that because I got a shirt and tie on, but I'm making the same sacrifices that you're making to be here. I could be somewhere else, doing whatever, but I'm here too. So when I see you wasting time, I just want to be like,
And
just
the thing is the insecurity of most students. It's an insecurity that they have within themselves, thinking, "Oh, maybe I'm not good. Oh man, my haircut is not looking as good as Vic Blends. My haircut is not looking as good as Juan's. My haircut is not looking as great as Ryan. My haircut is not as good as Cody and Preston. My haircut is not as good as Micah." Those guys have put time in.
mhm.
Those guys study the craft hard. You're not going to outwork Ryan. You're not going to outwork Cody. You're not going to outwork Devon. Those guys study the craft hard for their skill to be where it needs to be.
And they're all in.
And they're all in. Even like yourself, you've studied the craft hard. You put time in. So for a student to be like, Man, my haircut's not as good as am I. You've been doing it 2 months, 3 months. It's not you can't shortcut that process. Take some time.
You almost have to be a little pessimistic, like in my opinion, like the glass is half empty. Because I feel like if I stay like that, then I stay humble and I continue to grow. If I say I'm not quite where I need to be, even though think you give me praises and I appreciate that, I still feel like my glass is empty. I still need to fill this thing. I got so much.
Well, that's great because the students who I've seen from my experience from my analytics, because I do analytics for students, I watch them and I grade them, and I over the time since I've had the school, my analytics tells me that the students who come to school every day, who work extra hard, who understand that it's a learning curve, you can see it in their work. You can see it towards the end.
And I love to see like
The ones who
students
pace themselves.
that are insecure too, that just really insecure about their work, and when they finally start saying, "Hey, look at this,"
Right.
hey, look what I did, man, that makes me feel so good because I know you're building that confidence
But
that you
don't
need.
beat yourself up and say, well, compare yourself and shoot yourself down and then make everybody else learn experience terrible because you're not feeling comfortable with your skills.
Mhm.
Maybe you're not putting in the time. Maybe as soon as you leave school, you're not putting in that extra effort. Maybe you're not studying the craft like this other person. So why would you just compare just the haircut? It takes more than just a haircut to be a master barber.
And I think that's something that everybody has to get over when they first get to school,
Yeah.
or in an apprenticeship. Because if you do an apprenticeship, you're working in a shop around people that are doing cuts and making money, and in the same time, you see somebody in school doing well and they're doing great cuts and making money.
Are you giving 100%?
Mhm.
If you're comparing yourself to someone who's giving 100% and you're giving 30%, that's not even fair. That's not even fair to him or you.
No, it's not.
And you want them to teach you the skill, but you're not putting in that time like what they did to acquire that skill. Because it took them 100 hours to get that skill. Now they perfected it.
Mhm.
And for them to show you and just only put in 5 hours and think you're going to get that skill, that's impossible.
You gotta put the reps in.
You got to put the reps in. You have to put the same amount of hours or even more from that person who's teaching you. You can't put the minimum amount of reps. You're not going to get nowhere.
So I know this is a loaded question because you own a school now, but if you could go back, do you think that you would go to school to do an apprenticeship? Which way would you go?
I mean, school 100% because after my apprenticeship, I went to school and I seen the benefits.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I
Do you
didn't,
feel like you missed out on that much of it?
of course. I mean, of course. So apprenticeship, then school, then license, and then own school. You know what I mean? I mean, and for years, I'm like, what? But I was good at my craft, but I was a student. I was studious. So I would read, I would do research. But if you're not studious, you might as well. I mean, the best route for you is I'm not gonna say the best route. You determine the best route for you because what you put in, what you get out is what you put in.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Either no matter which way you
No
go.
matter which way you go.
Mhm.
But if you want it a little bit easier and you want some, you'd go to school.
Yeah. And I think that's true, 100%.
But no matter what route you go, you're gonna get out what you put in. Yeah.
And another thing that I think is good for going to school is the instant networking you get.
Oh yeah.
Because you're looking at like, I mean, how often does a new class come to school?
The first we had an orientation there. We had 4 students this morning. In
Okay,
Johnson City.
and you think about, I mean,
Every
you might
month.
run into 20, 100 people. Maybe a third, 3/4 of them continue to stay in the industry. Look how many people you've already networked with in the area.
What the activities that the schools present, the competition, the just the learning, the different instructors, different continuing education classes that the school presents, different people coming in on a broader scale where you have a group of people who's breaking it down for you and helping you learn, opposed to you by yourself or one or two.
Yeah, and you could just go. I feel like if it wasn't for networking and my willingness to go and meet new people and be around new people, I wouldn't have half of what I have now or have achieved or trying to achieve. I wouldn't even have the opportunities that I have now if I wasn't willing to meet and network with people.
Right.
And when you're doing an apprenticeship, you're almost kind of in a bubble. I feel like, in a way. I mean, I went to a few hair shows here and there, but I was so naive about the industry and the growth of it that, until I went to these hair shows, and it really opened my eyes to these people around the world that have done so much with the industry. But I really feel like I was just so focused on getting my license and being somebody in the shop, doing the best I can in the shop, and I just couldn't see the whole picture.
Right. I mean, you don't know what you don't know. You know what you know. So when someone is telling you, "Hey, try it this way," it's a reason because they tried it, they've they've received it, and it's time for them to apply it. They've received it, they've retained it, and then they applied it. So they're giving you some information to teach you how to do those things. Why make it difficult on yourself?
I think that's one of the coolest things about the industry is that most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time when I have somebody to ask a question or attain some knowledge, not to be nosy or whatever, just try to be cool and talk to people, but just to genuinely have a question about something. Most hair professionals have been willing to get back to me and teach me, and willing and excited to share their knowledge with me most of the time. And it's. I think if you really love the industry, then you love to see people grow at the same time.
You do, and you can't underestimate the people, the networking, and the students that will go through school, who will move out of state, who will go to different shops. You can't underestimate that group of people that you learn with.
When you did your apprenticeship, did you know many other barbers? Did you ever go to any other shops, or was
No,
not at all?
not at all, not at all, not at all.
Was there like a silent shop beef in the neighborhood?
Yeah, I mean, it was just, I mean, it's like 20 years ago, you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like almost 17, 18 years ago. So it was just like,
There wasn't much of an industry
yeah,
then.
the industry wasn't like how it is now. You know
No.
what I mean? So much has changed. You know what I mean? The barber industry has changed so much where I could look at certain things and see how a barber could make himself profitable.
Was there ever like did they have hair shows then too?
They did, but it wasn't something that you talked about. I mean, I didn't go to a hair show until my first hair show I went to was when I opened the school.
That's the very first one you went to?
Very first one.
Like 2012, is that what you said?
No, 2016.
16. And you didn't go to, did you know of any? Did it ever?
The conversation wasn't like that. So things like that you miss out on just being in the school. Someone might say, there's a hair show coming up. Someone might say, hey, we going to San Francisco to meet some barbers.
Mm-hmm.
Someone might say, hey, we going to this and that. So those things you miss out on in an apprenticeship,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Because it's not being talked about that much.
They just worry about their day-to-day grind.
Yeah, you don't have that that educator coming in. Did you guys have an educator come in?
No. I think we mentioned it. We did go to a few classes and shows, but
or someone come to the shop.
No, except the guy sells scissors. Come by these Hanzos.
Come by these Hanzos.
Yeah.
You're an apprentice. You're not making bread.
He said like 700. I said, no, I'm good. So I got these scissors from Walmart. I'm straight.
The CVS got some.
Yeah, no, I'm good. Yeah. And people, and that's another thing. Like the school, like when I hear students complain sometimes about how much school costs, but if they really knew the return on investment that they get, it's not even close. You can't even touch it.
It's not even close.
No, it's better. Probably the disparity on that is probably better than any other occupation you could ever really have.
There's not too many places where the tuition you pay, you will make that back by half the year, or even before that. And when you start working,
yeah, I mean easily. I mean, especially if you're in school and you're doing it right and you're building a clientele and a name for yourself. When you get out, you should have clientele waiting on you. You're going to make that back easy in the first year, easy times 5.
Even if a school say a top say $25,000, You should be able to pay that back in that first year.
That's the school is 25,000.
27,
Damn.
28.
No, excuse me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, 20. You contradicting yourself.
I know
Yeah.
I'm contradicting myself, but man, but I mean, you still get it back. I mean, that's still cheaper. That's 1 year of college.
Right.
That's 1 year of college. That's 2 semesters of college. You think about people going and just to get a bachelor's in whatever. You're still it's still going to cut in, and you're going to be making money way faster and making more of it.
I mean, the average price of a haircut is $28, $30, $35.
Exactly. And when you first start off, you might be doing an hour, 45 minutes of haircut.
Right.
That's good. That's great money. That's more you can go make working in your nearest factory.
Yeah. So, I mean, the reward is, and the benefit for the tuition is really, you get that back instantly. You get that back instantly.
I just think it's the best job in the world, man. And I'm surprised there's not a million barbers. If it was up to me, everybody in my town would be a barber. Because I done told everybody, it's like, man, hey, how you doing, man? It's like, oh, man, jobs getting on my nerves, man. I just can't. And I'm like, oh, you should be a barber, man. It's so great. You should do it. And nobody ever listens to me.
I mean, I tell people that, too. Because when I tell people, like, since I've opened the barbershop in 2004, and even before that, I never had a day where I went to the shop I didn't want to. I never had a bad day going to work in almost 20 years. Going to the shop. Even when I worked in Boston, it was so fun going to the shop. Even when I didn't have haircuts.
Did you feel like you're missing something? Sometimes everybody's coming and hanging out. It was
just fun. You're having conversations with people from around the world, around the country, and you're doing a skill that you love.
You're making art.
You're making art. You have this canvas every 30 minutes is leaving you.
And people look at you like you're a zoo animal because they're like, man, I could never do that.
Right.
I'd be afraid to even chop the edge off somebody's hair.
You learn how to use your straight razor and just meticulously and just carve certain things in people's hair without just being precise, using your tools, your trimmers, your edges to do certain things with your hands. And you're like, man, did these hands do this?
And I think it's just such a respected profession that people don't understand because, you're cutting people. You got people that are CEOs messaging you asking, hey, when can I get with you?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like doctors, lawyers, when can I get a haircut from you, sir?
Yep.
And that's, people don't understand the kind of weight that carries, but I mean, it really does. And that's why you should carry yourself ethnically.
It's major. I mean, it's barbering is a whew. So today we talked about, shout out to again Feed Spot for ranking as the top 25 podcast in the country and in the world. That's a major accomplishment. And again, Barber Classics is brought to you by Craig Charles of Crown Cuts Academy, JC Crown Cuts Academy, Bristol, and Craig's Crown Cuts, downtown JC, and my co-host.
Am I Fields? Am I your barber?
Yes, sir. Am I? Tell everybody where you at. You just said Am I Fields.
I do.
Talk about that wonderful city of yours, man.
I'm from Virginia. It's on the map. You watch the weather station sometimes, they bring us up. You know what I'm saying? We're here at By the Blade Barbershop, Marion, Virginia. Am I Your Barber on Instagram? AMMI Your Barber. Just hit me up, man. You make an appointment. Just come holler at me. I feel free to. If you're a student and you just want to stop by and say what's up, I've actually spoken to a lot of younger students in high school here recently, people that are passionate about cutting hair, and they're 14, 15 years old.
Let's set up a field trip. This lady just called me today, want to set up a field trip on Wednesday in Bristol from some alternative school in Kingsport. So I have to meet her there on Wednesday.
Let's do it.
So if you have some kids you want to set up a field trip to the school, we'll bring them up, maybe, and set something up.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You said it's a field. We'll talk about it later. We can finish it.
It's part of the podcast.
Yeah,
we let people know that our industry is loved.
Yeah, we're more than happy to reciprocate it at the sake of our time because we just love it so much. I mean,
yes, sir.
I mean, I remember I was talking to Craig the other day. I said, it was late. It was like 7. I'm like, Craig, what are you about to do? He said, I'm about to go do a haircut. I'm like, what you charging this man? He said, I'm gonna do it for free. I said, what? 7 o'clock on a Sunday, he's gonna do a free haircut.
I mean, but when you get more back because there's a conversation with the guy, and you're sitting there, just getting to see him. That was payment for me. That was fruitful for me.
And at the same, it's funny because we were at the art exhibit, and I asked the guy a question, and he said, "I think I know you. I think you used to cut my hair." Talking to Craig, and I was like, "Look at that."
Hey man, this thing crossed boundaries, it bridges gaps, and
generations.
It just from the mountaintop to the bottom of the top. Get there, be square, and be there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, barbering is love. I just can't speak enough for it, and it's just if I could just go to, I don't know, I don't know what I want to say. I just love the industry.
I feel you, man.
Yeah.
I just wish everybody would get at least start with their license and reach this point of enlightenment that I feel in life right now. Not to say I don't deal with problems like everybody else or have good days and bad days. But I just feel so much more at peace with myself in this industry.
And understand, there's a learning curve. Don't beat yourself up. There's a learning curve. You have to learn. There's a learning curve. This is an acquired skill. This is a learned skill. So when you get into it, whether it be an apprenticeship or you're going to school, there is a learning curve.
An order to the universe, as you
There's
say.
an order to the universe. You have to learn it. You're not going to be the best barber during that time of learning. You shouldn't expect to be the best barber. And don't compare yourself to barbers who are in the shop. Don't compare yourself to barbers who are on television, on Instagram, on Facebook.
Go to the bookstore and pick a book up and read the back of it and know what the whole book says.
Just say one day, I aspire to get there. And you put in the work, you will get there. Because after a while, 5 years in the game, your fade is going to look just as good as mine.
And even Craig Charles, where he's at, he still had to go one day at a time. He didn't get to go faster, no slower. He still had to go one day at a time.
All our haircuts, all our fades are going to look the same.
Market Street didn't get built over one day. It took one day at a time.
So. Oh yeah. Shout out to Lathan again. I mean, I remember when I called Lathan and say, Lathan, I see you got a podcast. What do I got to do to come on? He just come down. I was like, I'm coming. This looks fun. And it's been over, and it's during the pandemic too. It's like, it's been over a year. So, I mean.
I was thinking about how long I've been on the show. I was trying to think. I couldn't remember. Maybe April or something like that.
Hey, man, you're a legend now.
Okay, I don't know. I guess.
Yeah. I guess we have to make some apparel, man.
So we do. You do need it. I mean, we got a podcast.
Barber College Success.
I like the
apparel.
logo a lot.
Yeah, we gotta make some apparel.
Yeah, look, we got the plug right there. Yeah. Lathan got the hat. I got the hat on right now.
Yeah, we gotta do something. BCS. Some of it probably sue us thinking we're National Football Game Championship.
Barber College Success.
Yeah.
We can start a team like that one dude did. We can start a football team. You know what I'm talking about?
What?
There's a guy in the news that just started a football team, and it was just like random dudes. They weren't even really in school, and they was just like between the ages of like 18 to 30.
He got a football league?
They had it on ESPN. They had a game on ESPN. They played IMG, and they lost like 64 to nothing. And they found out he just Barber, who trying to be on the Barber College Success football team.
We might start with a softball team first.
There we go. We can have a school. There you go. School softball team.
You know what? We'll look into it.
There you go. Have different schools play different schools.
Yeah, we'll look into that. Man, this was a dope episode.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's the first time it's just me and you really just monologuing.
But sometimes you need that. You know what I mean? I was thinking about it. I was like, man, I'm going to throw my curve this weekend.
But we just talk and have so much content, and every time we speak, we're like podcast. Every podcast.
I mean, yeah. I mean, so you got to come up with some ideas too now, am I?
No, I'm okay. Whenever you want me to throw something in, I'll figure something out.
Well, come up with the next episode next week.
Oh man, I should have knew better. Like, why I say so? I forgot who I was dealing with.
The next 2 episodes on you.
Oh man, y'all hear that? Yeah. Y'all tune in. I'm gonna have to.
And you can bring your guests. Bring that guy you're talking about.
Yeah, I'll bring Eric Medford.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that'll be dope.
His Instagram name is the Wizard Barber, and the reason is because where we're at in Marion, the Appalachian Trail cuts through. So a lot of people walk up and down the Appalachian Trail, and they all got trail names, right? They got random reasons. Like one dude carried a loofah and they called him SpongeBob. So random reasons. And he came in to get a haircut, and the guy's like, "Man, you're a wizard with those clippers." He's like, "You should be the Wizard Barber." And then, boom, that was it. Yeah.
Wow. So you guys right on the Appalachian Trail up there?
It's the Appalachian Trail runs through there so they got this little app, and it lets them know where they can go, find hotel rooms, get some food, and go in for stuff. Yeah, stuff like that. And Marion falls on that app, so during the summertime there's a lot of people hiking it.
Man, I seen. Remember that? Was you that? It's a dude down there like a couple of weeks ago asking where to the Appalachian Trail, downtown Johnson City.
He lost, ain't he?
Yeah, I'm like, man, I don't know, man, because I ain't enough to point to east, west, north, and south. I was like, man,
he asked you?
Yeah, I said the bus station's down there.
Greg said, "Well, you need a subway? What is it?"
The bus station down there. They'll probably know. So, but again, man, Barber College Success brought to you by Craig Charles of Crown Cuts JC, Crown Cuts Bristol, Crown Cuts Downtown JC. Hit us up, man. We enroll students once a month at the Barber School in Johnson City and likewise in Bristol. We offer financial aid. We also offer the GI Bill. If any veterans out there would like to check us out, come to the school, come change your career, hit us up. Let us know what you're about. We'll give you a career change. We'll give you advice. We'll put you on a path to becoming a master barber. I can't tell you enough what barbering has done for me. I know it'll do the same for you. What are your lasting words, Mike, before we close this episode? I know it didn't seem like we was on it even that long. It's been an hour.
No, we've been chilling.
Yeah.
So I mean, just come. I just do it, man. Like
enjoy the journey.
I mean, yeah. I mean, what can I say? I
Make
mean,
the
you
most
just
of
gotta
it.
feel it, man. Feel it for yourself.
Don't beat yourself up. It's a learning curve. You're gonna grow. It may seem that you're not on track, but you have 12 months to complete a 15-month course. Month one, you confused. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what information. Month two, you get in the grasp of certain terminology and certain things. And that time you get the clippers in your hand, you start cutting. You've done all these practicals, all these things that you seem like deemed not important. Month 3 and 4, you kind of getting a little bit of independence, but you still not sure what it is. You're getting some setbacks. You think your haircut looks good, then someone start laughing or something that breaks your confidence. Month 5, you getting some momentum and you're getting more comfortable identifying different haircuts, different hairstyles. Month 6, 7, a little bit more independence come in, and you can go on your own and you start feeling good about yourself. And then you might get a setback because you didn't break a line or you didn't do something good. You look in the picture, but it's okay. You're on track. Month 8, 9, that's when you start really getting to your groove. You settle and you understand it's the bottom of the mountain. You're going down, and school is getting ready to be over with for you. You're getting ready to graduate. And then month 10, 11, 12, around that time, you graduate, you get out there, and it's okay to not be the best barber right there. The basics thing that you have to get down pat when you graduate: sanitation, consultation, knowing how to reach clients, knowing how to be the best person possible, thinking about punctuality, all those things. The haircut is going to come because when you get in the shop, it's going to be a learning curve. People not going to trust you.
I had a true story real quick. My friend wanted me to book him an appointment. I said, just use the app. He's like, I don't need to use the app. He said, I've been with you since day one, which is true. I've been with you since day one, man. He's like, you cut me with a razor. I was like, shoot, that don't mean nothing. I cut somebody the other day. I still make mistakes.
Right.
I still make mistakes,
Yeah.
and you're going to make them.
Yeah, and I understand that. It's okay. It is okay. There's a learning curve. There's a big learning curve. You can't shortcut that first month in the barbershop after you graduate. You can't shortcut that first 6 months. You can't shortcut that first year. You're going to learn something in that first year that you totally didn't learn in school. And it's going to be okay. I mean, I talk to barbers all the time who are 5, 6 months out of school. They're like, man, I didn't realize how much pressure I put on myself when I was in school. I didn't realize how much pressure I put on myself. Even some barbers who are 2 years out, they're like, man, why did I do that to myself? So I say that to say this: students, relax. It's okay. The haircut is going to come. Work on the things that you're not good at. Work on your weaknesses. Don't work on your strengths. Because you just keep working your strengths, when you get in the shop, it's going to be difficult to learn how to do a design. You can't practice and try to do a design in the shop now. Work on those skills. Work on during the dead time when you have in school. Hey, pick something up. The dead time when you have an apprenticeship, work on something. Pick up a mannequin. Pick up your shears and just start cutting.
And even if you're sitting around doing nothing, the day's going to keep coming no matter what.
Yeah.
So you might as well make something out of it.
Make something out of it. It's important. Again, Barber College Success. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for all our sponsors. Our sponsors, Colossal Brand. The syrup lady came by last week. Again, shout out to her. Hit her up for the elderberry. She has some great things going on. Again, thank you. We have another banging episode next week. Next week, Mr. Emma, he said he's going to come up with the content. So
I'm gonna talk one of the kids from Bristol, students from Bristol to come in.
Hey, if you can do that, that'd be great.
Yeah,
we got 2 spots. I'm gonna leave that to you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Again. Barber College Success. Barber College success. Barber College success.